Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Probably won't be that. I just sat with my. I don't know, I didn't do the thing. Well, I don't think you're fine with where you are.
Yeah, the custodian puts the name out.
No, I didn't do it. Diane just put them out, but I think that's because there's only two we held there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan, is the mic working? I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I'm going to request a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I need a second.
Second.
We're going in for two reasons: to discuss the job performance, character, and or physical and mental health of persons. Said persons have been notified in writing and advised that they may require the discussion to be held in open session. The second item is litigation. Thank you very much. We will be back at 7. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, we're going to start the meeting. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need an emotion to approve and seal the minutes of the executive session we just had.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Ms. Carroll, would you do the timing for me for public comment? For those of you who aren't aware, our secretary is in Maine. So she sent me people who had signed up for public comment by email this afternoon. And then I gave other individuals the opportunity to sign up here tonight. So you have 3 minutes. And the first person on the list is Rabbi Barry Dolinger. Okay. The next one on the
Hello.
list is
Sorry,
Donna
sorry.
Stuber.
Hello, wait, I'm here. Sorry, it just wouldn't let me unmute you. I apologize.
Are they on Zoom?
Huh?
Are they online?
No, I can see who's online who has.
I'm trying to speak online. It's Barry Dollinger, the first person.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, Rabbi. The tech had not unmuted you. Be my guest, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Barry Dollinger, and I'm here in my capacity tonight representing the Board of Rabbis of Greater Rhode Island, a pluralistic group of most of the rabbis in Rhode Island. We're grateful for the time. I'm speaking to the issue of the calendar and the current scheduling of the school dates starting on Rosh Hashanah. To be a Jew in the United States, but particularly in Rhode Island, is to be part of a minority community. For students, that means having your holiday days be days that you can take off, but you miss work, you miss the social activities that go on, and when you come back, everyone else has been proceeding, so you're behind and left out. We put up with that every year, and we kind of just accept that that's what it means to be a minority community in the United States. Every year, students and teachers come to me as a rabbi and others to seek counseling about the stress they're experiencing. If you're a teacher, your colleagues are judging you negatively for having taken time off, for missing memos, for being behind on emails. If you're a student, you've missed important things that have happened and you're falling behind on work. And when other kids, particularly from majority religions, have their holidays, there's a week off before and after, everyone's celebrating. We accept that, that's okay. And that's just what we go through normally. But when the first day of school is on Rosh Hashanah, one of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar, one of the 3 holiest days, it's that much harder. The holiday of Rosh Hashanah is all about the start of our year or the new year. And the basic premise is it's not just the first day of the year, that what happens on the first day of the year to an extent will control what happens in the entire year. And so we pray for good fortune and other things. And I think it's evident to most of us that the first day of school, particularly after COVID, is not just another day. The first day of school is the time where you make your friends, where you find a seat in the lunchroom, where you make a good impression with the teacher, where you sit at your desk. This year, it's the time where you establish a new normal, coming back and trying to start on a different foot after what's been a crazy year and a half for all of us. And so to miss the first day of school is categorically different than having to take off other days. It's for that reason the Jewish community is united. The Jewish community is not easily united, but we're united on this issue, right and left, in asking and really begging at this point that the school committee understand that for Jewish students and Jewish staff, this will be extremely isolating, that we've had to already kind of put up such a strong voice and fight for this is itself upsetting and provokes anxiety. We're already a minority, the minority that is the victim of the most violence in the United States. And we don't like to have to do this. It's deeply uncomfortable and unsettling. I'll just close with the following point. I've heard that some people move the day of Rosh Hashanah, September 8th, and we appreciate very much that gesture, and it's better than starting on the first day. For folks that don't know, many people celebrate Rosh Hashanah as a 2-day holiday, but some people celebrate it as a 1-day holiday. Our contention is that the best approach here, and if you want to make an accommodation, which we hope you will, the accommodation should be a full accommodation, ideally, that there are other schedules, professional development days, both of those days, starting school a week earlier, the prior week. There are different schedules that will allow for the first day of school to not be on either day of Rosh Hashanah, and that would clearly be the preference, so that all Jewish students and staff can attend the first day of this very important year. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before we continue with public comments, I think we should make an announcement.
Let me just, okay, thank you. Madam Chair, before we continue with public comments, I think it would be important for us to share with the public, although it was already on the news, that today the superintendent changed the schedule, and no longer will students be starting school on Rosh Hashanah on that Tuesday. First day of school for students will be on Wednesday. So the schedule has been changed. I mean, we certainly welcome public comments, but I think it would be better if the people who are speaking know that that's already been done by the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Carroll. The next person on my list is Donna Stuber. Is she online? Got it. Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Donna Stauber. I have been teaching at Kickamuit Middle School for the last 27 years. And I am aware of the change in the schedule. And I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And I want to direct my comments to the members of the school committee that have refused to discuss the calendar issue. I am deeply troubled by the fact that the majority of the members on this committee still do not understand the concerns that have been raised about the school calendar. I say this because they keep avoiding the issue. So I can only conclude that they don't understand the issue and what's being requested. So I'm going to restate it for you. We're not asking that Rosh Hashanah be placed on the calendar as a holiday with no school. We are requesting that you not schedule the first day of school on a religious holiday, or any holiday for that matter. In June, when I spoke during public comments, I said that I had a couple of solutions that I could share if anybody wanted to hear them, which apparently they did not. So I'm going to say them now, because to me, this is what makes sense. The district has scheduled a professional development day for October 27th and another one for February 2nd. Parents would normally have to find daycare for their kids for that day if they're young enough. And that's generally a hardship on parents. I'm suggesting that we send our students to school on those 2 days and move the professional development days to the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, when we normally would not have school, and Good Friday, which, as pointed out by Dr. Bryce, is a religious holiday. And if we're not putting religious holidays on the calendar, then we shouldn't be putting any religious holidays on the calendar, not even Good Friday. Those days are already vacation days for the students. So this would allow us to compensate for Rosh Hashanah, for the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, and not delay the end of school at all. I don't see any downside to this solution. And for the life of me, I can't understand why this is an issue. And probably the reason I can't understand it is because nobody from the school committee has been able to explain it. They just keep saying that religious holidays don't belong on the calendar, but that's not what we're asking for. We're not asking for it. And if that's the case, then why is Good Friday still on the calendar every single year? It's nonsensical. So I ask you, what is the reason? And I'm hoping somebody can explain it to me, because right now, what the public sees is a committee whose majority is acting like a bunch of petulant children threatening to hold their breath until they get what they want. What I see is discrimination, plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stuber. Cantor,
Stauber.
excuse me?
My name is Stauber.
Stauber. You really, oh. Cantor, Dr. Joel Gluck, you're here, yes?
Good evening. My name is Joel Gluck, and I am the Cantor spiritual leader of United Brothers Synagogue here in town in Bristol. And I'm not going to rehash everything that has been said previously, either tonight or in prior meetings. But what I do want to say is that although it's not the best solution, and for the reasons why said by Mrs. Stauber, I want to thank the superintendent for the directive he gave today, because it shows that somebody was listening. Because it appears that out of the table in front of me, only a handful were listening and still haven't yet got it. That this is a 2-day holiday. And by putting the second day as the first day of school, just makes the hard decision for the students and the Jewish staff 1 day later. It's the same decision. Because those who are going to go to the second day of the holiday, in town, the only synagogue in town has 2-day services. It doesn't solve anything to move the day to the start day of the school year to the second day of the holiday. It's the same thing. So I think the suggestion, and I called RIDE this morning and I spoke to the commissioner's office, and there are also 2 professional development days right before the start of school. And if those days are allowed to be used according to RIDE for instructional purposes. So if we put those days as the first days of school, have a long weekend after that first Thursday, Friday school week, you would have Labor Day off, and you would have the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah off, and there would be no extra days needed, and everybody would be in school, and there would be no question about your commitment to the students of this community. Because it's not only the Jewish students that are affected here, it's every student. Because the non-Jewish students who are there won't have their teacher or their principal, as I understand. So I don't know why we're sticking our heels in the sand. It's a really easy fix with minimal effort on your part, a vote to move the first 2 days of school to the week before. Thank you.
Thank you. Camille Panza, she's on Zoom.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak. And I would like to say what I had thought of before I learned that the superintendent had changed the date. And it was simply that I'm very dismayed that the Bristol Warren School Committee had voted to have the first day of school start on Rosh Hashanah, a high holy day in the Jewish religion. And I was further aggrieved by the school committee's vote when they would not allow for discussion at the following meeting. This is not about allowing Jewish teachers and students to have the day off for religious observance. That discussion has been taking place for years and needs to continue at a different time and place. Rather, it is about respect and inclusion and community. It is about Jewish teachers and students able to be present at what is arguably the most important day of the school year, the first day of school. I feel it is insulting that it has been suggested that this is a slippery slope, that if we give the day off for one religion, we need to give it off for all religious holidays. How many other religious holidays fall in early September? Certainly not Good Friday or Christmas. If there are other religious holidays that would prevent attendance on the first day of school, then we should be mindful of that and not begin school on that day. Again, this is not about the day school starts. It is about the day the school starts. It is not about giving the day off. Teachers and students of the Jewish faith want to be at school on the first day. They do not want the day off. In my mind, it is a matter of social justice. The school committee needs to stop digging their heels in the ground and listen to the reasons for this outpouring of objections from people of all faiths. It is a simple fix. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Panza. Andy Shapiro.
I'm hoping that this can be solved simply and quickly. And Chairperson McBride, I have a simple question to you in that regard. Do you believe that the board is going to accept the superintendent's decision on this matter? Because if that is the case, then I think it would be a wonderful resolution without a lot of additional controversy and embarrassment.
Mr. Shapiro, we're not. I will answer you this way. What Dr. Bryce did is very legal, and we will not contest what Dr. Bryce said today.
I'm sorry, could you say that once more?
We will not dispute, nor will we argue against what Dr. Bryce put out today in his memo.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm delighted.
I think I have this right. Is it Leanne?
Leanne Pizzullo.
Leanne Pizzullo?
Hello, good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for allowing me to come and speak on behalf of this situation. My name is Luann Pizzullo, born, bred right here in Bristol, educated here, and consider myself very blessed for that. I am a Christian Zionist, and by that I mean I am a Christian and I believe in the Word of God and what He has to say about me and the support of the nation of Israel. I had this all planned and already I'm blanking out here. I am proud to stand with the nation of Israel. And I really, when it comes to this holiday, very special. You know, the gentleman talked about, the woman talked about Good Friday. If we just had Good Friday and then didn't follow through, it wouldn't complete the holiday. So, you know, for this committee to grant this wish for these 2 days and grant the Jewish community the opportunity to worship and carry out what they do on this holiday. And so I am imploring you and really asking you to grant this request. And God bless you all, and Lashana Tova.
Thank you. Stephen Kaplan.
thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And thank the superintendent, as well as the very meaningful letter by Reverend Horvath in the paper today. I'm a 20-year resident now of Warren and a veteran of the United States Air Force. I also served for 10 years as the chairman of the Education Committee of the Turin Synagogue. And I would like to just remind us that what this question is all about is simply respect. And that is a great tradition. And like Dr. Horvath, I too, therefore, have some interest in the history of this region. I would point out, for example, when Mrs. Levy and Satius started the first bank in the state in Rhode Island, the colony. That bank was closed on Friday afternoon for them to celebrate the Sabbath. They closed that bank on Saturday, and out of respect for their Christian neighbors and friends, that bank was closed on Sunday. And so I think what we're going to hear as a result of your actions is to maintain that spirit, that tradition of respect for each other, because I think that's something we all should be very proud of. I would also perhaps suggest that if you make the change, it's a great teaching opportunity as an educator for all the children in this community, all your students, to learn from Dr. Horvath's letter, from Reverend Horvath's letter, and the Washington letter, what a great region they live in, and what a great state they live in. And therefore, I think it's a great teaching moment if you make the change.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, you have time for one more comment.
I have two more people on
Then
the
we'll-
list, and I will allow them to speak.
Thank you.
Gina McDonald.
My name is Gina McDonald, and I came here tonight to hope that the school committee would change its mind. So I'm glad that Dr. Bryce had the courage to stand up and issue a directive, and the school committee is evidently going along with it. Because as many of you know, Rhode Island was the first state in the country to have a Jewish synagogue. And for the school committee to make a decision that they did willfully and arrogantly to start the first day of school on Rosh Hashanah, I found appalling. I'm not Jewish, but I stand with the Jewish people who will not stand for this type of arrogance. And to me, it's indicative of a school committee that's out of touch with its community. So I encourage you to listen to your community next time.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. We have one more person on Zoom, and that is Rayona Clemens. Is she there? It's on my list.
She's there. She is there, Mrs. Chair.
Hi, sorry about that. I couldn't unmute myself. I agree with everything everybody said this evening, but I'm a little concerned. We as a community are losing sight of what inclusion really is. So here I am today before you to speak, and I appreciate this time you've allotted me.
Mrs. Clemens, it's
I
hard.
have,
It's
a
hard to
little bit of reason
understand.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's hard to understand you.
Okay, I have looked up and read about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I'm not finding any of this on on any school calendar within the state of Rhode Island. We have dates of multiple faiths that should be recognized as we come to inclusive community. We have the 15th and 16th, which is Yom Kippur. We have the 22nd, which is the autumnal equinox, which is celebrated by those who worship paganism. We have the 21st to the 24th, which is Sukkot. And the days vary with denomination. However, I suggest a community poll so we can honor those who worship these days. We have September 27th to 29th with his
Mrs.
Shimini.
Clemens?
Yes.
Mrs. Clemens, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's very hard to understand you. I don't know if it's your connection or our connection.
It's not my connection because I'm not on wireless. I'm direct linked. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So September 27th to 29th is Shemini Atzarat, which is also a religious celebration in the Judaism faith. We have October in 2021, we have Navaratri, which is Hindu, celebrated by those who worship Hinduism. We have the 31st of October and November 1st, which is Shawin, which is celebrated by pagans. We have November 4th, which is Diwali, very important to Hinduism faith. And although the 29th and 30th and December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are Hanukkah, work is permitted. However, I think that we have to celebrate that holiday, that festival of lights. In February of 2022, the first day of February is a scheduled school day, and it's the Chinese New Year celebrated by those who worship Buddhism. In March 2022, with the second is Ash Wednesday. It's a Christian holiday. It's a day of fasting where children may not have the opportunity, because of religion, to eat, and it may become a difficult learning experience. March 17th and 18th are Purim. It is a Jewish holiday as well, and those of this faith should not go about their ordinary business out of respect for the festival. On March 18th, we have Holi, which is a religious holiday celebrated by those who worship Hinduism. April 15th, 2022, it's Good Friday and Passover. It's celebrated by both Christians and Judaism. Both observances are previously scheduled as a scheduled day off observance. April 2nd to May 1st. This is a big one. I don't think people are totally in tune with what happens during Ramadan, which is an Islamic holiday. Actually, it's an Islamic period of time. In the past, these dates have collided with standardized testing. If state mandated
Chair, we're at
testing,
3 minutes.
I can send this to Diane for the record, but my concern is the children will not be able to perform to capacity as the day they have not had nourishment, and that is like a 5-week period. And then the last holidays I have in May 2nd and 3rd, which are Eid al-Fitr, which is Islamic. I will send this to Diane Campbell for the record, so that way there will be on file for public notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Clemens, and that ends public comment. Thank you, everybody. All right, moving on. We have the consent agenda. I've been asked to pull the contracts off the consent agenda. So barring the removal of the contracts, I'd like a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion to accept.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we'll go to the, excuse me. The administrator, the contracts, when we're going to go through them one by one. And the first one is the Director of Technology. I need a motion to accept the contract for the Director of Technology.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
I'd like to amend that or change it to be just a one-year contract. And I'd like to make the statement in the fact that the technology department has been discussed a few times at this meeting. And I just think that we should give all of the people in the technology department a one-year contract to make a decision as to what we're going to do.
Do I have a second for that amendment? I do. Do I have a second for that amendment? All right, hearing none, the amendment fails. So now I need a vote on the motion, which is Director of Technology, 3-year, 12-month contract. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
The second contract is the interim principal Ekateris. That's a new principal, and it's a 1-year interim contract. I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Yes,
I actually, I don't know if this is on.
it's on.
Okay. I had this pulled because we didn't go out for a search. And I know, Dr. Santa, you can explain kind of the rationale.
Absolutely. So this position became vacant recently, and we are looking to get someone into the position as quickly as possible to take care of the summer duties that need to take place during the summer. And also that would give us 1 year to go through the appropriate process to find a new principal. It is a very lengthy process. So we'd like to make sure that we have the time to do that while also providing teachers and families with the support they need for a successful start to the school year. As we know, there may still be COVID limitations at the start of the school year. We also have some facilities needs to get the building back and ready for the start of the school year. This candidate has a number of years of experience within the district and has filled several other administrative leaves. So we're very confident that she can jump right in and take care of the work that needs to be done this summer.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The next contract is the benefits manager in HR. It's a new position and it's a 12-month position. And I need a motion.
So moved.
And a discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The next one is a systems manager in IT. It's a 12-month position. I need a motion
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Discussion.
I feel the same way as I said before. It's nothing against any of the personnel. It's just the fact that I think we should revamp the whole department. So I will vote against it.
Is there a second to that amendment? Hearing none, that amendment fails. Can we move to a vote on the original? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The next one is a PC analyst tech. It's a 12-month position. I need a motion.
Motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, you have one more contract, the HR director.
I thought we, oh.
You pulled all contracts.
I did do that, didn't I?
So
You've got two
need-
more.
Yeah,
No, I have one more.
Data manager.
The
Data
data
man-
manager,
data
You're right.
manager and the HR
HR
director.
director.
Thank you. Data manager, and that's a new position, and it's a 12-month position, and I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Hold on, that's a 3-year position, I think.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I said it was 12 months.
Oh, I beg your
Yes.
pardon, I'm sorry.
And it's not a new position.
No, it's not. It's just, we have positions in this district that are 10 months, 11 months, 12 months. So I wanted to identify it to everyone as a 12-month employee. That's all.
Perfect.
The other one is a title change from HR manager to director of HR.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Bryce.
may I have the pleasure of introducing our new interim principal for 1 year at Gutierrez Elementary. It is my pleasure to introduce Christine Hughes. We are absolutely overjoyed that Christine has decided to accept this assignment. We know that she's going to give it her absolute best. We know that she's going to make fast friends with the Gutierrez staff and community, and we look forward to great things. So congratulations.
Thank you. All right, moving on. All right. The first thing under discussion and action is the status of the move to Reynolds School. I don't know who wants to handle this, but it needs to come out. Needs to be talked about.
Yeah, our director of facilities is going to go to the podium. Thank you.
My name is Tom Wood, I'm the Director of Facilities for the Bristol Warren School District.
Mr. Wood, we have blowers behind us. Could you speak up just a little bit, please? Thank you.
Yeah, is that better? So I wanted to give you a quick update in terms of the progress of moving to Reynolds. So it's a multifaceted approach in terms of identifying the scope of what we're actually moving and then logistically putting the pieces and parts of the puzzle together. So we've been working in concert with the town, and the town hired an architect that we've been working with in terms of the master planning of the building. And that's allowed us to fit our pieces of the puzzle into the second floor of the building. And since we've been able to identify the space planning that we all fit and the working relationships of departments all work to our satisfaction, we've started moving forward with trying to put the costs together. So there are many pieces in terms of the costs that we're working on. Logistically, there are architectural needs in terms of doing some minor modifications, of doing some wall constructions to create the private offices that are required by our internal departments. We have a lot of technology needs, and we have the logistics of moving. And we are progressing on all three of those fronts in terms of trying to put those pieces together to get them all to come together to get to a move-in date. So with that said, there's an RFP that's going out on the street next week for the solicitation of the moving company to be able to give us a hard number of the logistics of how the actual move goes. And we're identifying all the materials that are in Oliver that are going to be going over to Reynolds. And then concurrent to that, we're identifying the material in Oliver that needs to be disposed of. So we're trying to get a handle on the quantity of how that is, logistically how that happens. We are in the process of, as I mentioned, the architectural work. Have received proposals for building hard wall constructions, proposals for relocating the demountable walls that are at Oliver, or purchasing new demountable walls to be able to build those in Reynolds. And the issues there are the fact that the hard walls have proven to be more expensive than were anticipated, because when you build a hard wall, it becomes part of the building, and it's required to have certain requirements for power and fire protection and things like that. We're making it more expensive than we anticipated, where it's actually cheaper to use a demountable furniture system because it's considered furniture in the eyes of the code officials. And that allows us a little bit more flexibility to be able to put the demountable walls in and then be able to reuse those again in the future when we move to Byfield in the relatively near future. We've also have looked at analyzing relocating the walls that are at Oliver, which were a demountable system when they were installed at Oliver some 20 years ago when Oliver was last renovated. And those walls, even though they were intended to be reused, but over the years they have been have accommodated hard wiring. And so there's a lot of power wiring in those walls. There's a lot of data wiring in those that would all have to be taken apart to be able to take those walls apart and relocate them. And then they would have to be refabricated to fit the configuration at Reynolds, where it's actually cheaper to purchase a new demountable system than it is to try to relocate the existing one. The other issue that we've been trying to analyze in terms of relocating is the impact of physically taking those walls down while we still conduct business on a day-to-day basis. You know, one of the criteria we've had is that we have a functioning office that needs to operate 12 months of the year. We don't really have a long period, the summer per se, to stop our work. So we're looking to minimize the impact on the operations to be able to maintain our operation until we can actually get into Reynolds and hopefully have, in essence, a plug and play type of an arrangement where we can have Reynolds renovated, have all the technology put into it. Where we literally are moving over the course of a weekend or a 3-day weekend to be able to bring all of the materials over, be able to plug them in and be able to be operational the day that we move into Reynolds. I skipped over that last part, which was the technology. We've run into some logistical issues with technology in terms of the scope of what's required to get the data systems, the networks, and the phone systems to be operational at Reynolds. And we're working on a couple of approaches in terms of a temporary or a permanent, more permanent arrangement of either relocating the systems that are in Oliver and physically moving them over to Reynolds, or providing a new system in Reynolds. And as I mentioned before, being able to just literally move over when the new system is ready. That's our preference, and that was what we had budgeted for, but that has run into supply chain issues, is that a lot of the switches and the pieces and parts of that puzzle are not readily available. You know, we're having to wait 8 to 12 weeks for some of those components, or even longer for them to arrive. So we are still progressing with putting the pieces of the puzzle together. You know, that led to Dr. Bryce, you know, sending out that memo last week that the September 1st date seems unrealistic in terms of the availability of all the materials to be there. So we're waiting to be able to get a hard date in terms of when we can move, when we have confirmation that the renovation or the facility is complete, so that we can operate efficiently and effectively when we move in. That's a quick overview. I mean, I'd be happy to answer specific questions if there are.
So is there a schedule of events of when you're going to put the walls in, and when everything is going to be done? Like, what's your timeline to put the walls in, get all the networks up, get the phones up? I know I've received an email because I'm the chairperson of the Budget Facilities Subcommittee, that we still had, I guess it was Gutierrez Theater supplies in the basement, and the town was trying to paint the walls for us and redo the floors for us. And that wasn't removed, and no one had gotten back to them. And there was also an issue where the town is running all of the electrical wires. So they have hired a contractor, and we're holding them up. And it seems like there was no communication between our offices and their offices. So it's put them behind.
Yeah, so let me take that. So first and foremost, the former Gutierrez Theater equipment was removed by the town.
Do we have a date? Oh, the town removed it, not us.
No, we didn't remove it. I believe the town removed it so that they could do what they needed to do. In terms of the walls and the wiring, the issue for the wiring is exactly as Mr. Wood mentioned. In order for us to do the walls, the first quote, and I put it in the memo that we received, was approximately $40,000.
Okay,
right?
so I think we need a schedule of events of
So-
when your anticipation
So
is.
this afternoon, we received a brand new quote for new modular walls that came in at 25,000, right? We still don't know when they can, like how long it's going to take for that to be ordered, when it's going to be delivered. As soon as we have that information, we'll combine that information with the information for technology. The one thing that I would mention is that when we spoke about this, not last week, but the week before, all of the department heads came together and made a recommendation and really convinced me that the idea that we would be able to move into Reynolds by a date certain was based on best case scenario and everything happening perfectly. And in the world of procurement, it's just not happening that way.
Right, so that date was August 16th that you would get provided to us.
Absolutely. That was our best case early
Okay, so
idea.
what
And
is
so
the new schedule?
we do not
and-
have it yet. We are still working on it. As soon as we take the information from the quote that we received this afternoon, we'll be able to put that in a memo and get it out to the full
And we
committee.
also need to make sure we're communicating with our town because the town of Bristol needs to, they're hiring contractors for us to make sure the floors are done, the walls are done, the electrical's done. They're helping us with the networking. They said they would help us. If we're not communicating with them, there's kind of a loss in translation.
Right, so I've had meetings every other week with the town manager at Reynolds to physically go through those issues that you mentioned. And, you know, the scope of the work has changed. I mean, the town hasn't started doing any of the wiring yet because they've had to add some additional partitions. They're having to rebuild some of the walls, the existing walls, because they were doing some demolition work and they were unstable. So they've taken down some parts of the walls and they're physically having to rebuild part of the interior before any of that wiring can happen.
Okay, that needs to be communicated at least to by the facilities, budget facilities subcommittee, because none of this has been communicated. The last that we, at least that I know of, was August 16th. I haven't received any update or any calendar since.
So I think what you'll start to see is you'll start to see a weekly update on the progress of Reynolds. All right. And so it is a huge capital construction issue. It's going to take us some months to get fully in there.
I would also
All right.
like included in there the communication between you and the town.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you.
Vic, did you have something?
I'd just like to let the town know what we're going to be utilizing in Reynolds School. We are going to be using the second floor of the whole Reynolds School. That's for the superintendent's office. But the town is also going to share the auditorium area with us. And these meetings will be in that auditorium. And they're doing one heck of a job at making it really look like it used to look when I went there. All right. And the other thing is, I think they're also going to let us use one room on the first floor. Is that correct?
Adjacent to the auditorium, there's going to be one of the existing classrooms, which we're going to share as a combined or co-utilized meeting space. It's going to be set up as a smaller conference room.
But I just want the people in the town to know that we are going to be using that second floor, but we are also going to be utilizing those other two areas also.
Yeah. And I think the one other thing is room in the basement will be for record storage for many of the records that we have dating back, I think, when we were down there, back to, was it like 1890?
And before.
Yeah, so we've got some significant records of historical significance down there that we want to transfer over.
Never mind.
No
Anyway,
comment.
I want to find out if mine are down there.
I want to know why they aren't preserved.
The other thing is, if I had the opportunity to go to the second floor of the Reynolds School. They are putting beautiful the people that are going to be on that second floor are going to have beautiful hardwood floors, polyurethane. I mean, I'd like to have them in my home. I mean, that's what they've brought it around to. So just, it's magnificent. Thank you.
All right, any other questions from anybody?
I have a question. It may just be because I'm not privy to some of the stuff in facilities, but to me, this seems like a whole lot more work than we were led to believe in the beginning. Like, I seem to remember being told that it would be kind of plug and play, that the town was gonna take care of things and we would just be able to move in, and this just seems like a lot that we didn't know about before.
Yeah, let me jump in.
Okay.
And then you can, so two things. The town has absolutely done a marvelous job at renovating Reynolds. I've been there along with members, our attorney, the town manager, Steve Contente. And I was there earlier this year when it wasn't as in good a shape as it is now. So they really have put a lot of time and effort into it. I do think that the earlier estimates about the ease of the move were probably overestimated. It is a huge undertaking to move the district office, whether we were going to move it to the high school, whether we were going to move it to Reynolds, it was going to incur some expenses. And some of these expenses are because we may not be able to utilize the existing technology, and we're going to have to buy a telephone system. If we don't have to buy a telephone system and we can use the one that we have, then the price will come down significantly. We're still going to have to use movers because our staff, while we would initially think that we could utilize our staff are busy cleaning buildings, getting ready for the opening of schools. So if we pull them from that to do the move, we won't have them to clean the buildings. And so that's really the situation. Now that we've got, I think our three-headed triumvirate, we've got Rose for technology, Tom for facilities, and Tony for finances. I think all three of them working together will give us a much stronger idea of where we're headed, and that's where we got those numbers.
So initially, just to add on to what Ms. Villard said, we needed to release buildings. We could not hold on to buildings because they're expensive. And we don't get reimbursement from RIDE because they don't house students. So we had two buildings. We had the Reynolds building that we ended up taking back, and we also had Oliver. Both Oliver needed significant amount of repairs that we could not afford. So that is why we released Oliver. And if you remember, we took Reynolds back because of COVID. We thought we would need the overflow for students. And we realized that we couldn't put students back in there to begin with. So we released that back to the town as well. It is in our best financial interest to not have buildings that don't house students because we do not get the reimbursement from it. So this definitely, in a long-term financial spectrum, is the best decision to make because we're not repairing the building. We are a leaseor. So the landlord is the town. The town is the landlord. We are leasing it for $3,000 a month. So the upfront cost is going to be a cost. However, the long-term monthly payments are $3,000 versus what we used to have to pay. And we don't have to repair it when the roof is going or the foundation's going, or there's a broken window.
Right. So the only thing I'd add to that is that as far as the capital expense for the district, we haven't spent a dime yet on Reynolds. I mean, all the work that we've talked about is being done on the town's contractors. And they've done a substantial amount of work already. I mean, they've done a lot of work to repair the windows. They've replaced a lot of the floors, refinished a lot of the floors. As I mentioned, they started now rebuilding a lot of the interior partitions, and they've yet to start with replacing all the lighting in the building. So the town is investing significantly in the building with the long-term intention that they're going to occupy the second floor someday. But in the meantime, they're happy to spend that money and let us benefit from that over the next several years until they're ready to move in completely. And some of those issues are related to the scope of the work that the town's doing is more than I think they originally anticipated in this first phase. And there's a lot more wiring and lighting that they're going to do that they haven't even started yet, but that needs to be complete before we can get in. So there is an advantage for us to be patient a little bit, let the town do as much as they can in terms of the renovation work. And then when we physically just have to move our furniture in, and I'm talking about, at this point, the walls that we need to construct are going to be considered furniture, and they're all going to be coming in as furniture at the end when we move in. So we are trying to put together a more detailed, definitive schedule of how that move-in works and when, and try to have a date certain when that's going to happen, so we all can plan accordingly. It looks like it may be, 2 to 4 months from now before it actually, can happen. But there's still too many variables to tell you, specifically what day we're going to be open for business there.
I still think we should have a calendar of what the estimated days are and what the phases are. Like any business that we have a plan,
Okay.
like when we're going to get the RFP, when we're going to get the RFP out, when we're going to choose the vendor, what vendors we're waiting for. I mean, we need a detailed kind of timeline so we know and we can communicate back to not only the taxpayers, but also the town of what we're doing, and the teachers and parents, because parents are going to be, there's going to be a timeline that parents are confused. Do they go to State Street? Do they go to Reynolds? Like they're not going to know. So we need to make sure that our communication is crystal clear and we understand what the calendar is, and it's ever changing, and that communication needs to come through us. And right now it's not. So I just want to make sure that is going to happen.
We will absolutely do that. And I don't know when the next budget and facilities subcommittee is
So
scheduled.
we're going to have the last week of July. I think it's the 27th, 28th. And I don't know if Diana Campbell is on, but that's going to be the tours. And then Oh, 25th and 26th. I don't know, 26th and 27th. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever the date is, there's 2 dates in
Right.
July that we're gonna do facility tours along 27th and 29th, along with the building committee.
As part of that, it would be my recommendation that the 3, right?
If I might, please, we understand that there's capital needs throughout the district. We also understand that we've got necessity of construction commitments with RIDE that expires on June 2022. So I, this evening, would ask consideration. I'm using August 16th as a budget date, that we've got the operating budget coming before the school committee. We're going to be going to the, August 23rd.
Yes.
August 16th is the finance committee that I'm going to be presenting the operating budget.
Correct.
Wrapped in that there was some expenditures in the operating budget that was going to support the rentals construction, as well as being told that there's capital dollars. What we're working on, and I thank Tom for his work with me on this, is getting what's the total construction dollars that we need, so that we can piece together the rentals piece and the other construction costs, so we don't lose the opportunity to RIDE. I need the next 3 weeks to do that.
Correct.
I would beg that we have the August 16th Finance Committee meeting to have both a budget presentation, the construction or operations, and then tied to that would be a firm timeline. Because then we can be able to process purchase orders, we can line up the contractors and everything.
Yeah, so the July dates are just to do the tours and have the building committee do the tours with us, with the budget facilities subcommittee. And then August 16th will be the financial review.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
That would be
All right.
best for
Yeah.
everybody.
And that will include the schedule that you mentioned.
Correct.
Got it.
Is it
Mrs.
the
Campbell, do
18th
you
or
have
the
that?
16th of August? On this schedule, it says the 18th.
I also have the 18th. Yep. It's a
Oh,
Wednesday.
I got 2 more days, thank you.
Wednesday is the 18th.
It was the 18th.
Hey.
Yep.
2 more days.
Should I say 17th?
Mrs. Campbell, did you hear that? You can just nod.
Yes, I did.
We're all set on that? Any more questions?
Thank you, Tom.
All right, the next thing on the
Thanks, sir.
agenda was a discussion to amend the school calendar previously adopted by the school committee. We have the memo from the superintendent today. However, if anyone here at the table wishes to make a statement, they are more than welcome to do so.
I would, if okay. I would like to amend the 2021, make a motion to amend the 2021-22 school calendar that was previously adopted by the school committee, so that the first day of school will be Thursday, September 9th, 2021.
I need a second.
Second.
Now I need discussion. Hearing none?
I have a discussion.
I'm sorry. So mine's kind of a discussion and a statement kind of all in one. I don't know if anybody can hear me. So I just wanted to start off that I wrote it kind of down because I was pretty upset, but I returned home from a family vacation to find many hateful comments were made about us, about me, as well as 4 other members of this committee, because we have a difference in opinion. Who are we as a community and as a Bristol Warren Regional School District that such behavior is ever acceptable or justified? Tonight, I am disappointed, angry, and sad all in one. I was not aware that if you disagree with others in our community, it is acceptable to be called hateful names without listening for an explanation or reason why I voted the way I did. To have school committee members call you and pressure you to change your vote, to have political leaders call you to pressure you to change your vote, and to have a rabbi call your religious leader and ask them to talk to you about your vote. That is not democracy. That is bullying. We teach our students, or at least I teach my children, that if you have a difference in opinion with your friends, classmates, or family members, you state your opinion and let them state theirs by really listening to what their points are. In some cases, you will never come to an agreement, and that is okay. It is at that point you will need to agree to disagree, but you will not use hateful words or phrases. We all don't have to agree, but we all do have to be respectful at the end of the day. I have seen signs in the front yards of several homes in our towns that say, hate has no home here. Have we as a community forgotten what those words mean? I want to start off by saying I am not a racist, I'm not anti-Semitic, I am not a white supremacist, and I'm not part of a coalition. These are only some of the names I've been called and things that have been said about me. I've been called these names because I have a difference in opinion with others on the first day of school, which falls during Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah occurs sundown on September 6th through sundown on September 8th. Some have the opinion that the first day of school start on September 8th, so those of the Jewish faith can observe Rosh Hashanah on September 7th. I understand this point of view and have listened to the points that have been made in favor of this. I voted to start the school year on September 7th for this upcoming 21-22 school year. My vote was not made in error and was not a mistake, as some have voiced. The decision I made was not based on religious bias, unlike some have claimed, but was based on feedback from parents, employees, and community members who are impacted by our calendar, as well as students who need 180 days of education. Just like every single vote I take as a school committee member, I base all my decisions on fact and not emotion. I was elected to represent over 3,000 students, over 400 employees, and all the citizens of the town of Bristol. Every time I vote, I take it extremely seriously. When there is a vote, I make sure I gather all the facts prior to voting. I then look at the facts and how it will impact over 3,000 students, over 400 employees in our entire Bristol Warren community. Then, and only then, do I make my decision. We are a public school system. We cannot take off every religious holiday as we have students and employees who practice many different faiths. We need to be inclusive and equitable to everyone in our school building, regardless of religion, race, or creed. It is my opinion that if we move the date to September 8th or September 9th, we are saying that one religious holiday holds more value than another, which is not being inclusive or equitable. It is my opinion that this is telling our students, employees, and community that we feel one religion holds more value than another, which is something I truly do not believe. When it was requested by a fellow school committee member to add the calendar back to the agenda to open it up for further discussion after it was already approved, it did not make any sense to me. It did not make sense to me because both our unions and our full school committee approved the calendar to start on September 7th and end on June 17th. This made me question many things, but most importantly, doesn't everyone go through all the facts and follow the same process I do when they are voting to ensure your vote is representing all of our students, employees, and community? Several parents, employees, and community members expressed to me the current calendar starting on September 7th and ending on June 17th was sufficient as long as every student and staff member were given the opportunity to take time off to observe their religious holiday without penalty. I would like to clear up another false narrative that is out there about a coalition being in place within the school committee. I have not, nor would I ever ask others how they vote, nor do I vote based on being pressured or bullied by other school committee, political leaders, community members, or religious leaders. If you do not believe me, go back to the past 2 years of my term. Many votes were 1-8, with my vote being the one vote. I did not name call or stomp my feet. I thought to myself, well, I guess this is democracy in motion, and I do not have to always agree, but I do have to keep going to do the job I was voted to do. Mrs. Reish, I have sat back and listened to you speak with such hate, not only toward fellow school committee members, but also towards a specific group of people in our community. We are elected officials and should not spread such hate and division. For example, when you stated that it was great that we had 9 females on this committee, when in fact we have 8 females and 1 male. When you asked for clarification on agenda topic, and Mr. Cabral explained it as the secretary of the school committee in a factual, non-aggressive manner, you said to him, and I quote, "Thank you, Victor, for mansplaining." Or when you emailed a constituent in our community and said, and I quote, "We need to pressure our school committee chair in reference to adding the calendar back onto the agenda for tonight's meeting. Who else are you pressured?" Or when you went on a radio station and said, and I quote, "The majority of our school committee and the majority of our town are still older white folks." I find these comments and actions to be offensive and divisive and not acceptable or appropriate coming from an elected official for our schools. I have lived in this town for 20 years this August. This will never be my hometown. However, this is my children's and hopefully their children's hometown. The older white folks that you refer to are of many different nationalities, religions, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Have you taken the time to sit down with one of these older white folks that were born and raised and built what this town is today? I have. My 95-year-old neighbor was born and raised in this town. She tells me great stories of what the town was like when she was growing up and how she enjoyed seeing this town evolve to what it is today. Our older white folks have built this community and have instilled values to respect each other and care for our neighbors. The pride that radiates through this town is evident when you drive around town. I am assuming there was something these older white folks did right since you chose to live here with your family. I hope the media, both locally and statewide, give equal coverage to our students' assessment results for math and reading, as well as our operational review report, which was anything but stellar. This is what should be getting all of our attention and focus. This is our future. These are our kids, and this is our community. Thank you.
Well, yes. Go.
Sorry. I apologize. My voice might leave on me. I've had a lot of kids in my care over the last 4 weeks. This seems like a very simple issue with a simple solution. But as we all know, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. I want to start off by saying I am a practicing Catholic. I hold religion extremely important and essential part of life. Sorry. Regardless of what your faith may be, I wish more families had a stronger foundation. I will be keeping my vote. I will vote this week. Sorry. I am not in favor of the motion in front of us, but I'm going to tell you why. And I want to start off by saying I have spoke to many members of the community, Jewish members, faculty, staff. I have done my homework and I've had wonderful conversations with people and I have learned a lot. But I know that I did my homework. I know I did this process right. And I do not mean to insult anybody in my decision-making process because I have to live in this community. My children have to live in this community. My mother is watching this. And I know that I have to be able to put my head down on my pillow at night and know that I did the right thing. So I do not take any of this lightly. I am not anti-Semitic. I am not small-minded. All of the things that people have said about me, I'm kind of insulted because some of the people that have said these things are the first people that come to me when they need things done. That being said, in March, I went to the superintendent and Marge, and I said, we need a schedule. We need to know what September is going to look like. You know, parents have been living in turmoil. So in April, we had to wait because he said it's got to go through the union, and it has to go through the administration, then we can present a calendar. So in April, we got that calendar. When I read the calendar, I had a number of people call me and say, we're not getting out till the 25th, many of them teachers. And I said, okay, let me look at all the other state calendars. I looked at those calendars. Those calendars we were the latest getting out of school. So I looked, most were getting out the week of the 17th. So at that April meeting, I came here, I sat here or at home, wherever we were. And I said, I don't care how you do it. We need to start after Labor Day and we need to end by the 17th. I don't care if you take away the day before Christmas. I don't care if you take away the day before Thanksgiving. I don't care if you bring back half days. I don't care how it's configured. We just need to start after Labor Day and end before the 17th. The superintendent brought this to the union. He brought this to his administration, and we came up with the May calendar. So we all, as a committee, voted on it unanimously. So then we get to June. They asked, Nikki asked to revisit the calendar. I felt that I had done my homework. And in that meantime, when Nikki had asked that question, I then started to call staff members, whether they be teachers or support staff in the district. I've had kids here for 20 years. I went to school with many of the people who teach and work in this district. I called them. I run a camp. I have 270 kids there. I see parents every day. I spoke to them. I had two legislators call me. I spoke to them. I told them my piece. They said, I don't agree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. I had spoke 4th of July, graduation. I mean, how many more places in Bristol and Warren can you go during the 4th of July? Do you know that not one person came up to me? Do you know that now I had to engage every single person? I was the person who had to go up to people and say, what do you guys think? How are you feeling about this? Not one person came up to me. I did get 7 emails, and I believe I got more yesterday, but to be honest with you, Sunday was my day off. So I did not do anything. And then today, it rained, and when it rains, Mary V. Park is a nightmare. So I'm going to tell you, I didn't read any of the emails today. But up until that point, I had only received 7 communications. When we had done the theater program, when that had come before us, I must have received 100 emails. I had actually people call me. If I was out, people were they were speaking to me. It was engaging. That did not happen. I did not receive that. So when someone tonight said, what, am I being arrogant? Am I listening to the community? Am I out of touch? I take offense to that because I'm always everywhere. I mean, I find myself to be in many places, and I have not had one person come up to me. So the communication that bothers me the most is the deflection. I feel that this all happened in a really devious way, because up until June, it wasn't an issue. In May, I believe Carly had mentioned that Rosh Hashanah was on, and to be honest with you, I don't remember, I'm not gonna lie, but it has been brought to my attention, she mentioned it, but we still voted unanimously for the calendar, okay? And so, but then contract negotiations stopped, and our budget is a disaster. We didn't approve the summer school program. There was a lot of things that took place that we needed a deflection, that people needed a deflection. And all of a sudden, the school calendar became a deflection. So instead of worrying about all of the things that we should be worrying about in this district, we are not worrying about those things. I mean, they talk about the first day of school being important, right? It's so important. But teachers take it off because their kids go to the first day of school, or because their kids are moving into college, or they take it off because they're sick, or some of them may even be on vacation. I know substitutes that have worked every first day of school, right? But Mondays weren't important. So none of our high school students, none of our teachers even, well, I shouldn't say none, most of our teachers didn't even go into school on Mondays. Mondays weren't important. We didn't have to educate our kids on Mondays, but the first day of school is really important. Or the fact that the teachers union at the beginning of the school year put us into court because they didn't feel our school was safe. That's not important. Or the fact that they froze our kids out of the school year because they didn't feel that our classrooms, our air system was good enough. So my kid is, 10 degrees, the windows are open and they're freezing, and I'm getting text messages asking, Can you tell them to close the windows? That's not important? Or the fact that we don't even know how much the air system cost us? We still haven't gotten that answer. Or the fact that we asked for a diversity report and we don't get that either? So, I mean, if you want to talk about important things, the budget, how we had to lay off all these teachers because we don't know what our budget even looks like. We don't have a line item budget. And forgive me, I am a little heated on the subject. I completely understand the Jewish perspective. I believe that the people who have contacted me for that position are altruistic and they truly believe it, and I understand what they're saying. But when we close a school, we close a school because we cannot open it safely. We do not have the staff to open up the building. We do not have the staff to make sure that the kids are safe. That is not the case in this situation. And I'm going to use when I was in school, and some of you have heard this story because I keep telling it. Holy Thursday was a Catholic day, and at Warren High School, most people went to St. Mary's of the Bay. We had 40 kids in this confirmation class. So 9th and 10th grade, Sister Jolie made you go to the cathedral every Holy Thursday. So I only graduated with 70 kids at Warren High School. So half of Warren High School went to the cathedral. They didn't close the school. They didn't say, you're penalized. It was not, you went, you practiced your faith, and you moved on. So again, I respect the Jewish faith. I respect everything. There would be less kids at my juvenile hearing boards if people had more faith. I truly believe that. But I believe that this is a deflection. I think that there are more important things that we need to be worrying about. And that is why I cannot support this or this amendment. And because of, I'm just gonna end now.
Thanks, Chair.
Anybody else?
Oh, yes, I've got something to say. Thank you.
Carly, is it you or is it Nikki?
Oh,
You can go ahead.
Nikki's, okay, thank you. I had prepared some remarks earlier this evening that have been much more sort of civil in tone than those leveled against me. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to read these statements with a small caveat. Oh, excuse me. I have prepared some statements earlier, and I'm going to continue to read them with a small caveat. You better believe I have spoken in a way to help influence, pressure, whatever word you want to use to change the mind of my fellow committee members, because I feel in my heart that that is the right thing to do. This is how politics works. If you look at the Senate, you look at Congress, people speak to one another. They have discussions, they go in public and they express their values. Being able to practice your religion is a civil right, and this is an equity and a respect issue. Orchestrating a scenario in which Dr. Bryce had issued a directive for the first day of school after weeks of public outcry from families, staff, and religious leaders denies the community and those that are stymied the ability to hear the story from the majority of the school committee. We all have a story. Stories from communities, families, individuals. Our stories are often about who we are and what is important to us, what defines us as people, and what our values are. There has been great demand for public discussion and accountability, but there is a new pattern of silencing those who do wish to speak. But the deepest silence had come until this evening, has been emanating from this committee. The majority had refused to provide their story, and I don't think a slippery slope cuts it. This is the epitome. This is the highest of holy Jewish days. And as a Jewish person, as a member of a long substantiated persecuted class, I'm offended that we are not able to just move some dates.
I'm sorry, Nikki.
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to address a couple of things that Mrs. Ellsworth and Mrs. Thibodeau said. I completely agree that there is so much work to do and there is so much we need to be focusing on. I agree that this has become a distraction, which is why I was really hoping we could put it to bed a month ago and just stop having this conversation. I also agree with Mrs. Ellsworth that this should be done in a polite way of discussing, which again is why I wanted to discuss it a month ago and that was shot down. I completely agree that it should be discussed in a respectful way in the sort of system that is provided to us, and that was not allowed a month ago. I agree that I hope the press looks at our operational review and follows along with our student achievement. I, however, disagree that we're not able to walk and talk at the same time. I think that we can do this work and have this conversation about inclusion in our community while we also advocate for the achievement of all of our kids and while we do the hard work of sitting and looking at the achievement data. There is no reason that we can't do all of those things at the same time. I also completely agree with both Mrs. Ellsworth and Mrs. Thibodeau that personal attacks are never okay, in my opinion, never okay. And I would say that when you're reaching out to your elected officials, I would say that in the sort of discourse in our school committee meetings, I would say that personal attacks for me are never okay. That's between us, that's between our constituents and us, it goes all ways. As somebody who has been the victim of personal attacks, even before I ran for office, as well as my children, it's hard. And it's never okay. That we need to bring back polite discourse. We need to bring back respectful dialogue. And it's something that's sadly missing. And it's something that I have been trying to do since we first, had this conversation. A brief statement. I feel like everything has sort of been said at this point. But like Tara, I'm a practicing Catholic and I was raised in Ireland in the 70s and 80s where it was very rare for me to have the opportunity to meet anyone that didn't look like me and anyone who didn't have the same faith as I do. And I was a lesser person for it. It was the greatest honor of my life to come to this country and have this opportunity to have conversation and to meet people, from a wide variety of cultures and backgrounds and faiths. And I still continue to believe that that is a great honor. And I say all of this not to excuse the vote that I made when I voted for the calendar previously, but to sort of own that mistake. I say to my kids all the time that we cannot start to improve until we accept that we need improvement. And I think we need to come to that conversation with humility. And until we have the humility to accept that we need to make improvements, I don't think any of us are going to get back to that public discourse I mentioned earlier. And I think that that's a shame. Yes, I voted for the calendar to start with. And I do think that personally, for me, that was a mistake. At the time, I own it. I did not realize the severity and the repercussions of that conflict. And as soon as I did, I immediately brought it back to the chair and the school committee attorney to go back on the agenda so that we could reopen that conversation. I know that these weeks have been really hard for all of us. It has taken a huge amount of time and energy, emotional and otherwise. But the one positive, at least for me, that's come from it is I have had so many wonderful conversations with faith leaders, with people in our community, with administrators, with staff, kids, teachers. And I have learned a huge amount. I have learned so much. And that is, again, it feels like a great honor to me. Democracy is a messy business. I wish I could say I'll never make a mistake again, but until we can work out how to make AI take the place of people in running government, I can't guarantee that. But what I appreciate is that there are systems and there is a process in place to catch us when we make those mistakes and allow us to kind of right that ship and fix our course. And I appreciate Dr. Bryce's directive today. I think that was the system correcting us where we needed to be corrected. I know that I, for one, will enjoy the 7th and the 8th of September very differently in my all practicing Catholic family. And I look forward to taking some time in those 2 days to consider it as the head of the year and to take some time for our family to do some intention setting in honor of Rosh Hashanah. We can do our own intention setting and decide what we want our next year to look like and how we want to work together as a committee. And like I say, I really long for continued, polite public discourse with all of you.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? Yes, Karen.
Hi, just prepared a short statement as well.
Can you speak up, please?
Can you hear me now? No? Okay. Okay. I just wanted to point out that the discussion of the school calendar was over a span of 2 meetings that we had, where people did have the opportunity to bring in any of their concerns. At no point during those 2 meetings that I recall, did anyone express any concern over the start of the school year. I don't know if people just missed out on those meetings or weren't aware of the agenda. I'm not sure. But it's not that people weren't given the opportunity to state any concerns. Secondly, in reference to concerns that were later brought to light, I would like to thank the many people that I had the opportunity to talk to about this issue. People that shared their thoughts, feelings, and concerns through civilized, respectful conversation. I was rather taken aback by some of the emails I received from people who expressed themselves in such a way that, to me, in my opinion, is shocking that they consider themselves people of faith. Lastly, as we all know, Dr. Bryce, in his right to do so, has implemented a new school calendar year that I intend to support, and I look forward to a seamless start of the school year without any distractions, so we're able to focus on reading, writing, math, and learning as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Actually didn't prepare anything, but I had a couple of responses come up in listening to everybody else. So long as we're all talking about it, I am a non-religious person. I do not observe any religion. That being said, I still have the ability to respect others for theirs. And I think that we are very, very focused on definitely starting school after Labor Day and definitely getting out super early before the 4th of July. And those are very important days. But to look at an entire class of people and say, your high holy day is not important, I don't see how that, I just don't see how you can justify those 2 positions. This is not about us as a committee, but I resent the implication that somehow this was a made-up storm in a teacup to deflect from other issues. That's not anything that happened, and I think it's insulting to folks in the community who have taken the time that they've taken and spoken with the passion that they've spoken and written. And I mean, this is something that's happened organically over the month since the discussion was shut down in this meeting. So I really, I'm resent the implication that we may have had something to do with that. And I probably am guessing that folks out here resent that implication as well, that it's somehow made up to cover up some other issues that people think might be more important. I think that it's important for us to realize that we can sit here and talk about the calendar and how, well, is the first day of school that important anyway? The whole point is that you listen, and even if it's not important to you, which maybe it's not, and that's okay, but it's important to somebody else, and it's important enough for them to kick the dust up that's been kicked up over the last month. And I do think it's arrogant for us to sit here and say, well, okay, but not really. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I have nothing prepared, but I've been thinking about this so incessantly lately that it's just been on my mind all the time. So I didn't really feel like I needed to prepare something in that way. And reading a statement for me is always pretty awkward. So what I want to say is, the thing that I was thinking about when I was thinking about all of this last night, as I was trying to fall asleep, was acknowledged by Mrs. Panza and I think Mr. Kaplan tonight. And the word that kept coming into my head was also respect. I felt like when I boiled it all down, it felt like this is just an issue that is about respect, inclusivity, openness, having a district that is welcoming and appreciative. We are a public school system. I know that one of the reasons I believe so strongly in public schools is because of that diversity. And I think no matter what people's reasons are for being on the side that they're on in this, I think that I wish we could all let go of our defenses in this, because I think we have all at different times been attacked. It comes with this job. It's awful. I think it can be especially awful, although not to take away from anyone else's experiences, but when you have children in the district as well. So I think that if we could boil it down to thinking about this as a human issue and a respect issue, and put our defensiveness aside, whether this is about union issues, whether this is about feeling offended and hurt. I know that we've all been in those situations and felt that, but right now, I wish we could all just look at this as a human issue. I want this to be a district that is inclusive and welcoming and respects everyone in our community. It doesn't really matter how many emails we get. It matters to me that we get emails and that we are respecting all of our different groups, children, administrators, teachers. The people who have reached out are people who don't want to choose the first day, between the first day and their faith. To me, that is to be celebrated. We have people saying to us, I know you can give us the day off, but I don't want that. I want to be there for my students. I want to be there for my first day of school as a student. I want my children to be able to be there. And to me, that is just so incredible. These are people who don't want to choose, because both of those things are so incredibly important. And I really think that as a school committee and fellow community members, we should really value that and look at that as something that should be valued. So I guess to just sum up what I have to say, to me, it's always been an easy fix. I did not realize when we first did the calendar that the first day was falling on Rosh Hashanah. And so that is why some of us worked to amend that. That being said, when we did realize it, we wanted to change it. Other districts had been through the same thing, and it was just a really easy fix. And I agree with everyone that spoke tonight. I'm not sure why we're digging our heels in the sand. But I do think this is an important issue, because for me, what was important about having this discussed publicly is what's next. What happens the next time? You know, it seems like this time there was a fix. The superintendent could say, thankfully, I'm going to change this. I'm going to override this and change this and move the first day. But what happens the next time a marginalized group in our community needs to be listened to and really heard? And I guess based on everything I've heard tonight, my hope is that as a committee, we can kind of reflect on that and really consider what does happen the next time.
Anybody else?
What was the motion?
The motion
was to amend the calendar to start on September 9th. So, but I have a little, been pretty quiet during this for a reason. The chair needs to look at both sides and all of the people that are here. But I want to explain something to you that's been misrepresented here. After we took the vote, first of all, we knew it was Rosh Hashanah on that day. It's in the minutes. If you go back to YouTube and you watch the school committee minutes in April, you will see that Mrs. Reich pointed out that it was Rosh Hashanah. You will also see that I responded to her that this district did not celebrate Rosh Hashanah by taking days off. We allowed people to take days without penalty off to celebrate their religion. So that's on the record. The concern was more about the fact that we weren't sure that the commissioner was going to allow us 2 extra days for professional development. So we sent it back, and the superintendent looked to find out if we could have those 2 days. And he came back and he said we could. And at that point, we all voted for the calendar. Now that's a span of time because that's meeting to meeting. Then the issue came up and I was asked to revisit the vote. Now I will admit very clearly that I made a mistake with Robert's Rules of Order. I told Mrs. Piper that we could have a reconsideration of the vote, not realizing that a reconsideration of the vote under Robert's Rules of Order does not allow for discussion. I put that on the agenda. Our attorney did not correct me that I was wrong. I informed Mrs. Piper that there would be no discussion because we were revisiting the vote. That's why you saw no discussion and for no other reason. When Mrs. Piper came back to me and asked to put it on the agenda again with a different motion from Robert's Rules of Order that allows for discussion, I immediately put it on, and that's what you're hearing about tonight. So for those of you who assume that I cut off discussion or didn't allow discussion, you're correct. I didn't. I made a mistake. I should have not put it on the agenda at all because it was not the right motion to make. A reconsideration has to happen the same day that you take the vote, and that's why there's no discussion. And everybody knew about that, and I just want to make that really clear. I am going to vote no on this amendment, and I'm going to ask now for a vote. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
The motion fails. All right, I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? When we come out of executive session, we will reconvene open session for the purposes of approving and sealing the executive minutes. Thank you very much. Good night. I need a motion to approve and seal the executive session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor.
Aye.
Now I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor.
Aye.